This is the Werewolf special of what Time magazine has called the greatest horror movie review show to hit planet Earth. It is, of course, episode 18.
Yep, 18.
Of I Know What You Watched Last Week.
Yeah, Time has never said anything about our show. But
When did Time not say it?
You know, if you want to bring in...
When did they not say it?
Every single day.
But then there's one time
But
that
they're
they
missing
did.
out. They're missing out.
Yeah.
So yeah, as you
Screw
said...
you, Time magazine.
They haven't discovered us. Don't screw them yet. And,
So it's October, and you're going to be doing all of the...
No, I just dress like this on a regular basis.
Yeah, well, people know that you don't because they've already seen you on here.
Yeah.
So who are you?
I'm Frankenstein's monster.
And I'm behind the camera, dressed like I'm about to go surfing, maybe. I don't know, something like this, or at least go to the beach.
You've got some stains on your t-shirt and
I've
everything.
got some toothpaste. And I'm wearing
At least he's clean.
I'm wearing the shorts that your mother complained were too loose on me. Mummy likes it tight.
Can't blame her.
Yeah. What do we watch?
We watched 3 very differing levels of film here with Battledogs.
Yep, Battledogs.
First up. The next one we saw was Cursed, which I believe you've seen before, but I hadn't. And finally we rounded it off with An American Werewolf in Paris.
Yes.
So I guess I should go ahead and rank those, although...
Yes, Miss Frankenstein.
It seems pretty obvious to me, and I hope I didn't do this last week already, but I'm going to stick with the order in which we viewed them. So Battledogs, third place. Sorry, not sorry.
I'm shocked.
Cursed, second place, and American Werewolf in Paris wins gold from my part.
I've gone exactly the same order.
Yeah, it's quite clearly distinct this week, I find.
But quite clearly, yeah.
I do think so, yeah.
Should we get into Battledogs then?
Yes.
I knew it was going to get, because this is an Asylum movie, as in Asylum Studios, so they do the same thing all the time with different kinds of massive reptiles and sharks, things like this. And this movie was a late replacement for Ginger Snaps, so it was going to be Ginger Snaps, Cursed, An American Werewolf in Paris, but as we went to watch Ginger Snaps first, we found it had been taken off of streaming, and I wasn't about to pay, was it something like $3.99 to rent it? This isn't 1995 or whatever.
So instead we watched a pile of garbage.
Well, I had to make a swift decision.
Although...
I almost scrapped the Werewolf special completely after there was no Ginger Snaps.
Meltdown.
Yeah.
There's no Ginger Snaps, I don't want to do a werewolf special.
Even yesterday when I picked Cursed as the second movie, in my head I was still going to be like, oh, this is going to be the Werewolf special featuring some other movie which isn't a werewolf movie.
But no, don't worry guys, it's straight up werewolf. And
Oh.
I was going to interject because I do have to say, even though I called it a pile of garbage, it was one of those that was so bad it was funny. So as long as you're watching it with someone that you can kind of laugh at all the terribleness with, then
Yeah.
it wasn't like
Like
the
I say,
worst thing we've ever seen.
You go into an Asylum movie knowing what to expect, so you can't be too harsh on it.
So I should blame this on you for putting it on in the first place.
Well, you know that I always sit through these kind of sci-fi, as in SYFY channel movies, and yeah, Asylum movies we've seen before. Stuff like Malibu Shark Attack, Mega Shark versus Giant Octopus, all that great stuff. You've seen a lot of them now, haven't you?
Mm-hmm. Unwillingly.
Yeah. So this one, I'd say it ranked middling out of all those types of pictures.
Can we talk about the main girl?
Well,
who...
let me just do a quick summary. So there's a virus infecting the good people of New York, and the army is called in to sort all this out. And that's pretty much it. And people are taken to an asylum. I've written asylum/makeshift barracks for tests on the infected, which happen to be mostly men.
Hi.
When we were looking at the shots of all the people walking around.
Extras were probably just...
And they were all men. It was almost like playing Spot the Woman.
Hey.
Unless,
We did actually play that game for a couple of
ladies are
minutes.
maybe impervious to this disease.
Well, I don't think so, because the main girl
For the most
is
part, because
infected.
if I'm to believe what I've been told, New York is made up of apparently 55%, 6% women, and yet all the infected in New York were mostly men, so they probably got a better constitution for this kind of disease.
Maybe they taste better.
It's the only explanation.
Well, also, I was
Between
going to
all
say,
of
the
this-
main woman, you haven't even said, she's the whole reason that this outbreak
Donna.
has happened in the first place.
Patient zero.
Yeah, apparently she's a wildlife photographer, which we find out later, and she got bitten by some wolf in, like, Canada or something, I think, and apparently that's changed her.
And we've got Major Hoffman from the army, who wants to find the cure, and we've got Lieutenant General Monning. I don't know why I didn't call him Manning. Why is he called Monning? And he wants to harness the powers of the Battledogs / werewolf canine
Yeah, he
weird
wants
things.
to put them to work in the army, doesn't he?
Like create
He's
super soldiers almost, that tired old thing. So yeah, Donna Voorhees is our main woman. Miss Voorhees, they've taken that from something, I can't remember what.
It's Johnny's falling over on all the costume bits I've got lying around.
I just fell over a high heel. Strappy high heels almost took me to the floor just then. I can do some serious damage to myself. Miss Frankenstein.
You're safe, don't worry. And otherwise I can just
well, I'm not entirely sure I am. I might do it again.
He likes to live dangerously though, because I noticed he hasn't moved it. He's just left it there.
There's no room, we made a right mess.
Anyway, where were we?
So this actress is in Tremors, the original Tremors. She plays the 10-year-old girl in Tremors. Great
Well,
flick.
that explains it then.
And she doesn't act a lot,
Childhood
it
fame.
seems. So this is like her comeback, this movie.
Yeah, of all the performances, this was such a weird mixed bag because we had some really famous names and faces.
Oh, we had a couple of niche famous. I'd call them niche famous.
Famous to me.
Who's famous to you in this movie? They were my people.
Miss Congeniality.
Okay, right. So Bill Duke is the president.
Bill Duke.
Yeah, anytime. Remember I kept saying that to you during the movie? Anytime.
Yeah, but he's not the Miss
Anytime.
Congeniality.
No, he's in Predator, and that was him taking a scorpion off the back of Carl Weathers, and Carl Weathers sanking him.
I think he really phoned
Then
in
he
his
says anytime.
performance in this movie. I think he just could not be bothered. He was like, I'm here for a paycheck, and he realised quickly how shit this was going to turn out, so he just kind of said the lines, and that was it.
Yeah. We'll get to Bill Duke's presidency a bit later on as well. This, as you said, performances.
Yeah.
So towards the beginning, there's a line of people about to be ushered into the barracks. They have to go in to be tested as the virus is outbreaking. And there's a guy in line who they focus on, and he's called American Citizen. That's the name of his character. And he's got those plastic harnesses around his wrists, like the plastic handcuffs. And also when he breaks free from the handcuffs, and he pulls this really funny face when he's released, runs off into a little green, and he's surrounded by a bunch of people with guns, and then he pulls what I would like to call, the poo face, like he's about to take a dump just before he turns into a werewolf. But then he quickly comes back to life, and we're in the barracks. He's come back to life under the supervision of the army. And I should also mention that this character is bald.
Also.
I also mention that this character is bald.
Do the rest of the episode like that. Actually, no, please don't.
And him and another bald guy, a guy that wouldn't take his pills in the scene before, he gets a bit uppity.
Troublemaker.
Yeah, he acted out, so now he's test fodder. So they've got two guys, both bald, who they're going to inject with the serum. I think this was
I don't think the baldness was a point. I think that was just
prejudice
coincidence.
Against bald people. The army are prejudiced against bald people in this movie because only the bald people get injected purposefully.
Yeah, they're testing out
serum.
whether, they can be used as weapons, I suppose. So they have them fight each other as werewolves.
Yeah, not only is it mostly men that are in this barracks, but they're taking out the bald men first.
We also, I don't think we really need to mention it, but I'm going to mention how awful all the special effects, CGI.
Whoa.
Okay.
Whoa. I would say for the first 20 minutes or so, the effects were pretty good. Practical effects. But then we have the cast come across what can only be described as a cut-up rubber mask on the floor from Pound Shop, which is masquerading as someone's savaged face.
I don't even think it was that, but yeah, this section of face they had lying ripped off on the floor. I mean, the eyelid was perfectly intact with every eyelash on it, and it looked like it was about that thick, and it had just been slapped on top of a pile of fake blood. It was I think we actually had to rewind and freeze frame because it was so laughable.
We mentioned Bill Duke is in this, and you also mentioned Miss Congeniality. Now, also we know Bill Duke is not in Miss Congeniality, but Ernie Hudson is. Also, Winston Zeddemore in Ghostbusters, so he's been a cinema hero of mine since I was tiny.
Yeah, he's great.
Yeah, he's also in The Crows, in a TV show called The Aussies, and loads of great stuff. And of course, your favourite, Miss Congeniality. So I was thrilled to see him bring a real class to proceedings.
He was honestly the only one who was enjoyable to watch.
Yeah, he was completely enjoyable to watch, wasn't he?
It was, yeah. And it's so difficult to do, I find, in these movies where everything has just been done poorly for the actors. Sometimes you can, I think, be a decent actor, but you just look shit because of the script and the direction. But
up to this point, the people we've been introduced to, the main characters, are, because it's Asylum, they like to bring in like almost like imitation people. So we've got like a fake David Boreanaz, I think I've said his name correctly, he's Angel in the Buffy TV show. A fake Danny Trejo, a fake Ving Rhames, and a kind of fake Kristen Dunst at certain angles.
Kirsten Dunst.
What did I say, Kristen?
Kristen.
Kirsten Dunst.
Yeah, they're not... Okay, but we've got... one of the other main characters is a doctor, a female doctor. And she is siding
Dr. Ellen, I think.
With the people, and there's one of the army guys who's siding with people. So basically there's like two factions. You've got the army guys who don't see these people as people, they're just infected beings that can be used as weapons. And you've got the other faction who still sees them as humans and so wants to cure them.
Yeah, we've said that storyline now pretty much. Now, when all this is going on and everyone's figured stuff out and they're trying to figure out where the original virus came from, do you remember them bringing up a hologram of a queue in an airport?
Yes.
Just before it all broke out?
Yeah.
Yeah, Ernie Hudson's in that scene. Mm-hmm. He's the one that brings up the hologram, I believe. While
they don't have CCTV, but they have a hologram.
They have a hologram, and fake David Boreanaz checks it all out. And that scene really annoyed me, because when I saw it as a live scene, people just queuing for an aeroplane, people queuing for an aeroplane, and then they brought it back again in hologram form. I thought it was like torturous almost. So as I said, we've got Major Hoffman. The first thing I've really written him down for is him in a public toilet talking down a werewolf. So Major Hoffman is at knee height, looking into the eyes of a werewolf.
He's trying to bring out the humanity.
He's
like, I know you're in there.
Yeah, Hoffman's holding his hands up to the side to show that he's not a threat to this werewolf.
He's put his gun down.
And he says, like, it's okay. We can work this out. I know this must be hard on you. It's hard on me too. Hell, it's hard on all of us. And then it cuts to a dumb face of a CGI asylum werewolf just staring back at him.
Yeah, the werewolves were just next level awful. Although, to be fair, I don't really think the werewolves were nailed in any of the films that we watched.
Yeah, we'll also get into that later as well. I would say I vamped on Hoffman's dialogue a little bit there. But it was not too far off. We also got Patient Zero Donna as a werewolf at this point. She's been chased through a park or something, and she's netted. You know, I think a helicopter shoots out a net at her or something, and the soldier looks up to her while she's in the bag, and she swipes out at him, and then he does this reaction which is so OTT. I don't know if I can describe it. Is he holds his hand up to his face, elongates his fingers up while going like.
But that's not even the bit I found funniest in that scene. Was after the werewolf has been netted, both the werewolf and the net are CGI, and it just looks like there's a weird like net blob floating along the ground backwards and forwards.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be intimidating.
Did you enjoy the scenes of science? We get graph demonstrations explaining the virus through mind-numbing dialogue.
Oh, there were so many things. I also felt throughout this entire movie that I think the point was that this was a virus they'd never experienced before. I'd never heard of werewolves before, but they were handling it right from the start as if this was a yearly occurrence, like this was just the flu, and they're like, oh yeah, so we need to get everyone in, keep their heart rates down, inject them with this or that. Like, they just instantly had everything sorted, which was really weird. And yeah, there was one bit, I think, where they showed sort of computer images in the background that was supposed to be explaining the genome sequence stuff.
Sequencing.
And they'd clearly done like a 2-second little thing and just put it on loop, and it...
Would you like
oh my God, it
the
was
Asylum team to go more into the science on future productions?
No.
Okay. We also have... We have a confrontation between Major Hoffman and Monning at one point. And Hoffman is saying to Monning that he's going to rat him out and let everyone know that he wants to contain the virus to make super soldier wolves or whatever. And Monning says to him, "No one will believe you." And Hoffman replies to him, "Oh yeah? What about the President of the United States?" And then pulls out his cell phone. President Bill Duke.
This guy's performance was definitely not one of the best.
And was also just like demonstrated that he's got top quality dialogue to work with as well, so there's no excuse really. Back to the inmates in the... I keep calling it the asylum / inmates simply because of this. There's a scene where they just had like an action sequence and they go to an interior shot of the people walking around the barracks / asylum, and all of a sudden they're walking around like they're zombies or something, and they're clearly supposed to be walking around at random but naturally, but because they're all extras, the look on their face and their body language is all like, "Here I am walking randomly in circles. Here I am power walking. Look at me, I'm swaying." It's all so unnatural.
But they were just... I
Really
think the
irked
direction was really weird as well.
It really
because
irked
I
me.
think the reason they were walking is they weren't supposed to be sitting down, because at first when patient zero is like overwhelmed and one of the guards is like really rough with her and is like, "You got to get up and keep walking." And I was like, why do they have to keep walking? And what's that got to do with anything?
Yeah.
And then later on there are some sitting down whilst others are walking, so there's no continuity.
As we mentioned previously in this movie, Hoffman has tried to talk down a werewolf. And in the next scene that we see him with a werewolf, when they're fighting, I turned to you and I said, "Oh, why didn't he just try reasoning with the werewolf again instead of fighting?" As a joke. And then he did. And this time, in his reasoning, he tells the werewolf his name. So he makes it personal from the off this time. He's learnt from the...
Is this one where it works, though? Because it actually has the desired effect in one.
Yeah, he
finally.
Hoffman says, "My name's Brian, US Army. Nice to meet you." And at this point, because he said that, I half expected, when the camera went back to the werewolf to be like, "I'm Ron. I used to be a chef, but now I'm a werewolf. Just end my life, goddammit." And then we'd cut back to Hoffman, and he'd be like, "Cut the bull, Ron. We'll have you back on 2 feet quicker than it takes you to whip out an omelette." And then it goes back to Ron / werewolf, and he says, "You're saying I'll cook omelette again?" And then Hoffman leans into werewolf Ron, puts his hand on his shoulder and quips, "You just bring the eggs, pal." I think I'm onto something here.
I didn't realise he'd written a whole scene.
I feel like if you're going to be in a scene, especially a second scene where you're trying to talk down a werewolf, reason with a werewolf, you might as well just go the way I've just gone there. Eggs. Because he might have been a chef before. He was talking to the wolf like he knew him.
Yeah.
And clearly the wolf had, a real simpatico with him.
Well,
a connection.
In this one, though, it did seem to be slightly more so than the other ones, that the werewolves retain some kind of human conscience.
Because we've got the army in this movie, of course, we've got some scenes with the Secret Service. And the Secret Service guys look like their wardrobe budget was about $6. They were just god-awful suits at these Secret... If this Secret Service turned up in that, I would definitely be asking for some identification, because they just look like they're from, a swap meet or something like that.
Bring your own suit.
Really haphazard. I think I was looking at corduroy blazer. Our hero Hoffman, later on down the line, so we've had him talk down a werewolf twice. He's heroic, he can do things in the army. And we have the scene which shows what a renegade he is when he hangs up on the president. And he's with the two women. So he's with the main woman, Donna, and he's with the doctor. Mm-hmm. And I think it's the doctor says, "Great, he just hung up on the president." And Hoffman says, "What do you want me to do? I can't just sit around and do nothing. There's got to be a way." Then they find the said way, and they're about to bungee jump into action. Bungee jump / zip. They look to me like we're going to zip line. And Hoffman is looking at Donna, ready to zip line / bungee into action.
Zip line.
Yeah, but the reason I'm saying bungee will be made abundantly clear in a second, because we've got Hoffman, who looks at her with a mix of awe and intrigue. He's conveying both. And he says to her with an air of playfulness, "She photographs killer wolves. She bungee jumps. Anything else you want to tell me?" And then she kind of smiles and zip lines into action. but he says bungees.
Yeah.
So that was pretty cool. It then cuts to a bird's eye view of soldiers, like en masse swarming Central Park. Bird's eye view, just soldiers everywhere. Then we cut to a wide shot, and it's just two blokes in a cheap costume jogging around a field.
But this all
There were
leads
two
up to
soldiers
another-
instead of 2,000.
You've just jogged my mind about that scene in Central Park, where we've got a sort of Lord of the Rings style two armies clashing thing of all the wolves and the actual army coming together from like a bird's eye view. It was so over the top.
Yeah, highly effective, I'd say. It was like watching, Lawrence of Arabia. It had that kind of grandeur about it. We then have Hoffman in the back of a car, and he's again with two ladies, and he says something about it. This goes all the way back to JFK, so he tried to put like historical significance and grandeur to the script by just mentioning the JFK years, and apparently the virus was found around then, and now it's back with a vengeance. JFK apparently tried to bury it, or someone around the JFK era tried to bury it.
I did find myself forgetting a lot of the film as we were watching it. I was just not engaged, I don't think.
You mentioned when we watched it, you've mentioned it here already, that you found Bill Duke's president to be, he was probably the most dour president I've ever seen on, well, it's not quite a Hollywood movie, but you know what I mean. Normally the president is Mr. A-OK, and he gives grand speeches and stuff. You could say he's kind of phoning it in, possibly, but then Bill Duke is kind of, every time I see him on, he's just, naturally laid back, super laid back. Even in the Predator, he was not the Predator. In Predator, he was the same. But I almost feel like he had no dialogue, because one of his aides would come up to him and be like, "Mr. President, we got intel on 2 subjects in the werewolf program," and then he would just reply with, "So you're telling me what we got is intel on 2 subjects in the werewolf program?" And then he would just like add 2 more things. He'd like, "Just kill this guy," or whatever. He would just repeat what someone just already said to him.
Yeah, well, maybe...
You went to be a Godfather. You thought he was influenced by the Godfather, Marlon Brando's Godfather.
I thought the way he was acting was definitely like some weird impression of the Godfather. Even the way he spoke sometimes, I was like, it sounds like he's trying to do the Godfather. Maybe he's taken a page out of, the books of the old greats and just been like, well, I can't be bothered to learn my lines anymore. This is beneath me. So just write the dialogue in for someone else and I'll repeat it back to you.
We also have...
I mean, he looked miserable the whole time.
Yeah. Mr. Happy. So fake David Boreanaz at one point, he's making a petrol contraption. Do you remember that? And it's just a bit of string tied around a pipe with 2 water bottles filled with petrol, and he gives it a stab.
Yeah, I still don't know if it's petrol or water, because...
It must have been petrol, because it exploded.
Because I realised, so what he did was he made some contraption that's like 2 bottles of water and different weights, and as the weight of one releases through the gap where the water's gushing out, the other one will be lowered or lifted, and then the grenade that he's primed will go off. So it was a grenade that went off.
Well, if you want to learn how to blow up a factory or over a piece of string over a pipe, just watch this movie and it'll let you know how.
I love how resourceful people are in horror movies.
Yeah, horror. Yeah, I guess it's kind of a horror movie. It's a werewolf movie, so technically, I guess, yeah.
Sci-fi horror.
We also get some plane drama. Hoffman takes control of the plane at the end. Do you like the plane drama? Did that excite you?
No.
No?
No.
And when we get right to the end, it all goes down on the motorway, an empty motorway. And Donna, I believe, she's about to blow up the last werewolf. And she says, "Chew on this, mother!" It reminded me of like Anne Lewis blowing up Leon Nash in RoboCop. It had that same brilliance to it.
Oh, so silly. Yeah, I mean, I'm already bored of this film just talking about it again.
But then we get fake David Boreanaz on the same motorway. He's having a fight with a werewolf as a werewolf, but then he comes to naked and squirming on the side of the motorway with the werewolf in front of him. Remember the naked squirming?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then Donna dies, so he's been doing the whole, she burns, she jumps, she cooks, she cleans, blah, 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 blah. What else do you do? Then she dies, and that leaves him and Dr. Ellen. I think her name's Dr. Ellen.
Oh, yeah.
And then he pretty much just comes onto her straight away through my eyes.
I forgot, yeah, so he'd been coming on to the victim, like patient 0, and then you're right, so she gets killed, and he's like gutted, you know. Oh, I loved her and now she's dead and I'm holding her in my arms. But then they have to get away. And as you said, her and the doctor lady, who must be at least 30 years older than him, I'd say, as well. What, don't you think?
No.
Oh. Older than him, anyway.
They're,
And,
they're not like 48 and 78.
Okay. Well, anyway, doesn't matter. So, yeah, no time has really passed, but just because they've gotten out of this danger situation, he's forgotten about his affections for the
Donna.
younger one. He's like, hey, let's celebrate life.
Yeah, so not only is he a Major Hoffman, he's also a bit of a Lothario, a swordsman.
Casanova.
Yeah. I was a bit of a swordsman before you tamed my fair heart.
A slut. Slut shaming you. Are we done with this one?
No, just one more piece of cliche dialogue. When Donna's passed away and Hoffman's already moved on to Dr. Ellen, he says to her, we can still save the city. We just gotta let them know that we have the cure. And then we get the same thing that happens in every Asylum feature. We get shots of a guy in a helicopter, shots of plenty of helicopters, guys in aviator sunglasses with his helmet on at the controls, surveying the airspace. They might just use the same shot in every movie.
Yeah. No, the whole thing was no.
Yeah, I'm kind of pleased for Ernie Hudson that he got killed off early, so that he didn't have to be in it when it really took a nosedive. Yeah. Battledogs. So in number 2, Cursed, by the one and only Wes Craven, written by the writer of Scream and Scream 2, Kevin Williamson, and a whole bunch of other people involved with the Scream team.
Yeah, with those names, I really thought it would have had to go to first place, but it wasn't anyone's best work. It was entertaining, and my god, it was a step up from Battledogs. Yeah,
I was almost ready to completely give up on the Werewolf special and not even watch Cursed after witnessing Battledogs. Because as much fun as, you know, I've clearly had with certain parts of it, how can you not have fun talking to a werewolf in a toilet? But yeah, that didn't make up for the rest of it.
Yeah, Christina Ricci as well, I think it's always great to watch, and she's got so much horror history behind her.
Yeah, we've got a pretty well-known cast in this.
Yeah.
Yeah, Joshua Jackson, Christina Ricci, your favourite Judy Greer is in it.
Well, sorry, but she just plays the same character in everything she does. She did it in this one as well. She's always the snarky bitch.
She's Judy Greer, yeah.
Yeah. not her biggest fan. But anyway.
Keep going.
No. That's not what this point... The point of this is to talk about Judy Greer.
Who you hate.
Every time she steps onto the camera, I know what I'm going to get, and I don't like it. So, I don't like it.
We get a little bit of Shannon Elizabeth from American Pie in this.
Oh, just a brief bit, yeah.
Yeah, not for Joshua Jackson, your friend's favourite, Maya, and a little bit of Scott Baio.
On Ice?
Yeah, that's what you know him from best, Scott Baio on Ice, isn't it? From Impractical Jokers. So what did you make of Cursed? What did you make of Cursed?
Are you still recording?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm scratching my armpit.
Right, we'll cut that bit out then.
Yeah.
So what did you make of Cursed? You expected a lot more, I assume.
I did. I was really hoping for a lot. But then again, considering it's not that well known, I assumed there must be something up with it. Sometimes you find the hidden gems that have been overlooked, but I think with all these names attached, if it had been better than it was, I probably would have heard of it earlier in my life. It'll
come as no surprise to you that shock horror, there was massive studio interference from Miramax Dimension and Bob Weinstein. So we've gone through you mentioned the Battledogs and what they look like, the werewolves and Battledogs.
Yeah.
Now we're in Cursed. Battledogs probably cost what, 250 grand or something like that. Cursed was, I think, close to 40 million. So what did you make of the wolf in this movie?
I think I said, as we were watching it, I said the wolves aren't really that different to the ones in Battledogs. It was really bad.
Yeah.
Like laughably bad. And that always, I think, ruins, like, I can't think of a werewolf film I've watched that's scary, because the werewolves are always just so unbelievable.
You haven't seen too many werewolf movies, have
No.
you? No. Yeah, so the Wolves movie, they brought in a effects team to do the practical effects for the damage that the werewolf does and all this, and it was all filmed. And then Bob Weinstein decided they didn't like those effects, so they brought in K&B Effects, who have done just everything, right? Anything you can name, they've pretty much always been done by K&B. Then he decided that he didn't like that, so this has been going on for like a couple of years now. We're not talking like a few months or anything like that. So the backstage stuff, the behind the scenes stuff was going on for about 2.5 years apparently at least. And he's then decided to get rid of both of the practical effects elements and just layer everything with CGI. And that's why we ended up with the werewolves that we get in this movie, despite the budget.
Silly. It just doesn't, so rarely looks good. I did really enjoy some of the settings of this. Like they had,
yeah, it was really cool.
This, like, I think it was supposed to be a nightclub, wasn't it? But it had
Tinsel.
theme rooms. Tinsel, it's called. Yeah, it had theme rooms. It had like a mirror maze. It had a horror bit. It had a diva room. It had like all these, themed full on, like with mannequins and just everything. It looked really fun, and I love interesting sets. It can make such a difference to a scene.
Just the classic thing of with most or all Wes Craven movies that I watch, just the way it was shot, the way it was lit, all that kind of just really pleasant to watch in general.
Yeah.
It's just always nice to look at the screen, even if it's not one of his best movies. So I mentioned that there was a lot of interference with this, and not only was it a matter of sacking effects crew and things like this, but they also demanded reshoots for parts of the movie. And when the reshoots started to happen, they literally got rid of the majority of the cast. So the people that we've watched in the movie yesterday, the majority of those people weren't in the movie. So they'd already shot a full movie.
Ouch.
And it had Elena Douglas, Heather Langenkamp, who is Scott Foley, who is the killer in Scream 3, Omar Epps, who's in Scream 2, he dies in the cinema toilet. Robert Forster's in it, James Brolin, and even Corey Feldman was in this movie. And then all of these actors filmed their scenes, which were cut when the movie was rewritten and then reshot.
So weird.
And we also had, actually he was going to come back for the reshoots, but the actor Skeet Ulrich, who is the killer in Scream, and he's also in The Craft, he was in this movie. Loads of his scenes were shot. He was one of the main three originally. It was going to be, instead of Christina Ricci.
I love a bit of Skeet.
Yeah, exactly. I would have loved to have seen him in this movie, but it all got completely cut. And when he said that when he came back to do the reshoots, he'd read the new script and he just didn't want to be a part of it anymore because it had completely changed. That. So there's a whole host of reasons as to why it went wrong. Because obviously the people that are involved in this movie are like top tier. So there's many reasons to why it turned out like it did.
Yeah, I feel like that does explain it, because it ended up just... You asked me what I thought about this film, and it kind of ended up just being a bit vanilla, for lack of a better word, because you can see nothing's glaringly awful, except I hate CGI, it's a pet peeve.
Yeah.
But apart from that, everyone's clearly professional and knows what they're doing, but now that you say with all the interference, you can really tell that it's been watered down and changed a lot, and it just doesn't have the impact of their usual films, which is a shame, because it could have been really good. It had such great elements. But yeah, I feel like even the storyline now, when I think back, it's just, there's nothing particularly interesting about it anymore. It just loses all its impact.
Yeah.
Oh, also, it seemed pretty obvious, at least 2 of the 3 werewolves, who they were from the start.
Yeah, a lot
Judy Greer was the only one that kind of surprised me.
Yeah. I did like it when, at the end, when Judy Greer is a werewolf and they're in tinsel, but she's in hiding, and Christina Ricci needs her to come out. So she starts just saying about Judy Greer's character, her human character, she has fat thighs and like smelly breath and bad skin, and then all of a sudden the werewolf like jumps out in front of the window, smashes the window, and then flips off Christina Ricci.
Yeah, so you get a werewolf flipping you off.
Yeah, you get a mere werewolf holding up its middle finger, which I imagine wouldn't have come from Wes Craven or Kevin Williamson.
Who knows, maybe that's his whole feeling towards all the interference, and that's his way of getting back. I was going to say as well with this one, because the comedy aspect of the one we're going to discuss last was really obvious, Werewolf in Paris, but I feel like there was so much comedy in this one as well, but it was possibly a little bit more subtle, apart from that swearing werewolf moment. But yeah, it did actually make me laugh a few times, which is always nice.
I'm not sure what the original intention was for this movie, because I haven't really looked too hard, but considering that everyone has said, like, including the cast, directors, everyone said that this movie has turned out completely differently to what was, originally intentioned. And what I do know is that, again, Bob Weinstein said he wanted more of a quote-unquote Scream feel, where it's like kind of a bit more like teen happy ending in a way kind of thing. So I actually, before I found that out, when the movie actually ends, we've got Christina Ricci on her porch and she calls the dog in and she looks up to the moon, and you've got Jesse Eisenberg's character walking away with his former nemesis Beau and his new girlfriend. It was shot completely like endings of like Scream 3, when Neve Campbell is walking into her big new country house and the dog follows her out and the porch door is open. It was just had that exact same feel, and there wasn't really there were some half decent kills, I suppose, but it wasn't a horrific movie or anything. It was more like a comedy, really, and it was like, insert more Scream, make it funnier, make it this, that, and the other.
It'd also be interesting to see I would have liked to know what the original idea was for the... Is he the founder of the club or an artist, or... Who is that guy that she's, like, dating?
Who, Joshua Jackson?
Yeah.
The guy that's always at Tinsel?
Yeah.
Yeah, he just...
The one that
she's dating, yeah.
Yeah.
I know. Yeah.
So him, he's this whole time talking about how much he likes her and she's so different and he wants to make it work with her, and it's not like he's lying. This is supposed to be true, I think. But then as soon as she has a problem with being a werewolf towards the end with the confrontation with him, he just instantly turns from being this in love with her, trying to make it work guy, to just an arsehole who seems to hate her instantly. And I thought that was a really weird instant twist. It was like they just falling.
I just tripped over the high heel again.
No, it just felt like they had to.
It's a death trap in it.
They had to make him like that to, tie everything up, so to speak. But I didn't like it.
What about, we've got Jesse Eisenberg as Christina Ricci's brother in this, and he plays like the nerdy guy. Mm-hmm. And he obviously gets bitten, so he turns into not such a nerdy guy once he's got werewolf powers. Mm-hmm. And he has the wrestling scene where he goes from nerd to all the cheerleaders just chanting Jimmy, Jimmy, because he's taken out Beau, who's been tormenting him all throughout this.
Yeah. And I didn't realise Jesse Eisenberg could be in any way attractive, but actually this is probably the best I've seen him look, when he's got his just roughed up hair and stuff. I don't know.
That did it for you, did it?
Yeah, I'm into the werewolves, clearly.
When I went to write a note on my phone about Jesse Eisenberg, I got auto-corrected and they put him as Jesse Eusenbeef. E-U-S-E-N beef. So, yeah, that's what he'd be known as henceforth. Yeah, I've seen Eusenbeef in the few movies, Social Network, Batman vs Superman, and this one.
Yeah, he's not massively different in his performances and stuff, but he was...
He plays Mark Zuckerberg as he plays Lex Luthor.
Yeah, but he was fine to watch. It didn't grate on me in any way.
Yeah, everyone was good to watch, definitely. It's just kind of almost a classic cast of late 90s, early noughties. I think this was 2005, this movie. Mm. Yeah.
Also, the whole thing of Beau, this guy we just mentioned, the like bully
closet gay guy,
suddenly being gay at the end, that felt tacked on. And his relationship...
Well, they'd already made so many crass gay jokes that they had to make him gay to make all that okay.
And then him being like into Jesse Eisenberg's character, and then...
Yeah, he goes to tell Jesse Eisenberg that he's gay, and then Jesse Eisenberg in return tells him that he's a werewolf.
And then also, this is such a horror movie cliche. Actually, not even just horror movie, just a cliche of these kind of high school movies, where there's a girl who the, nerdy outcast is into, and she's actually, she's not just pretty, but she's really nice, and she would, like to be friends with him. But, oh shucks, doesn't she just happen to be dating the arsehole who's bullying him? And she doesn't really do squat. She's like, every now and then she's like, oh, don't bow down. And like, she'll tell Jesse, oh, just ignore them. I'm like, that's not useful in any way. And why are you dating someone who you can see is an arsehole? Plus, we find out that Bo is gay, so she clearly wasn't really getting much out of that relationship. The whole thing just made no sense.
Which, of course, to prove that when Jesse Eisenbeef became a badass, he got the girl.
Yeah, Bo hands her over, essentially, at the end as well. It's very weird.
Yeah, but, you know, Jesse Eisenbeef has now got a girlfriend, Bo's out the closet, everybody's happy.
Yeah, happy ending.
Happy ending,
and
yeah.
The dog's fine.
Dog's fine. Oh, yeah, we had a Zipper the dog.
Zipper the dog turned into a werewolf and attacked Jesse.
Yeah, the dog scenes were good. I liked it when Jesse Eisenbeef went to the window and "Ooh!" howled because all the dogs from the neighbourhood were all outside his window looking up at him, and when he howled, they all ran away.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No animals were filmed in that. Well, no animals were filmed. No animals were filmed in the harming of this movie. So yeah, that's pretty much cursed.
Yeah.
So let's move on to number 1.
Number 1.
Which you actually watched today.
Mhm.
American Werewolf in Paris.
Yeah.
Which is technically a sequel to American Werewolf in London, but not really.
Have I seen the London one?
Not if you haven't seen it with me, no.
Then no, I haven't seen it.
Yeah.
This one, yeah, it's got some hilarious moments. And I actually, for once, noticed really early on that I liked a lot of the shots and the lighting and the way it was.
Well, let me just stop you right there, Karen, because when we sat down to watch this movie, you turned to me and said, "You've seen this, right?" And I said, "Yes, I've seen this." I said, "You've also seen this." So we would have seen this around 6 years ago. And when we watched it, I remember enjoying. I did enjoy it. And then I said to you, "What did you think of it?" And you were like, and I quote, "Pretty shat." You didn't like this movie, so
yeah,
I didn't bother mentioning it anymore after that. I was like, I can't believe she didn't like it. I thought it'd be right up her alley, this one.
Yeah, after we watched it again today, and you said, "Oh, you've seen it," and obviously after a few minutes, I recognised it. And yes, I remember thinking, like, hang on, wasn't this one that I didn't really like? How can that be? Because I loved it when we watched it today. I thought it was just an instant classic. The only thing is, I do feel like it dragged a little bit.
Yeah, it could have been cut by maybe, even just 10 minutes. And that would have been fine, because it only lasts for just under an hour and 40.
Yeah, it felt kind of long. They've got like the half an hour sort of build up, as I call it, where there's stuff happening, and it almost felt like at the end of that half an hour the film could have been finished.
I really enjoyed the first half an hour.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. But then I was like, oh wait, there's like an hour left. What could possibly happen?
Not just the opening half an hour, just the opening in general. As you said, the shots and the lighting and things like this. And I absolutely love the opening, showing all the Gothic and religious buildings while the title cards were coming up and things like this. And I'm pretty sure it was rain coming down and things like this. Either way, it was a dark night. Gothic buildings, great lighting, and we have our main three guys, Andy and Chris, I know that well because it's my dad's name, my uncle's name, and their friend Brad, and they are literally climbing the Eiffel Tower. So they got permission in this movie to go into the Eiffel Tower. Apparently Paris would shut it down from midnight to 6 a.m. just for their production. So when we see them walking up the Eiffel Tower and, leaning over the edge of the Eiffel Tower, looking over Paris, that is actually them in the Eiffel Tower, which is, like, just astronomically cool. I don't know how many people were allowed to do that. I don't think you'd be allowed to do it these days.
Yeah, I don't know.
When I say these days, I think this movie was like 97 or something like that. So it's not like it's ancient.
How expensive it would be.
Yeah, 97. It's a $25 million movie. And most of the movie, it should really be called An American Werewolf in Luxembourg, because most of it was filmed in Luxembourg, apart from like the Eiffel Tower bit. And I do remember seeing parts of it, and I was like, I don't remember Paris being as lovely. And then it turned out, no, it's Luxembourg. So it's Luxembourg that is lovely.
Well, we see a lot of not so lovely underground like sewers and derelict buildings and stuff, which look really cinematic.
Yeah.
And obviously remind us a lot of Heathen, because we've got sort of similar feel to some of the sets with the underground and tunnels. When
we were on the Eiffel Tower, the three lads are, doing whatever, and then all of a sudden we get our main female, Seraphine, played by Julie Delpy, and she had quite a lot to say about this movie, which we'll get into in a bit. But we've got Julie Delpy. What did you make of her performance?
Yeah, really good.
Yeah, twas. As was pretty much the three guys.
I think, yeah,
the three guys' performances were really good.
Again,
as
the
well.
three guys had such stereotypical roles, but it helps with the comedy.
Yeah, and so they just met Seraphine, and she bungee jumps. She jumps off the Eiffel Tower, and then the main guy, Andy, jumps after her with a bungee, and they get to the bottom. They survive this jump, and then from there, Andy wants to go and find Seraphine because he pretty much thinks that he's in love with her, essentially, right? So he ends up in the hospital after doing the bungee jump because he bumped his head after the rebound. And by the way, if you bumped your head after the rebound, your skull would still smash to pieces if it hit the concrete like that. So he absolutely shouldn't be though. He's not in the best of ways when we see him in the hospital. But his two friends, Chris and Brad, they go out into the parks of Paris and try and find the girl. Do you remember?
The girl, the note that she dropped.
The note that she dropped while they were bungeeing.
I do remember. It's really funny.
Yeah.
They obviously get distracted by things and try and play off weird behaviour.
They're like creeping up on women and stuff like this to see if it's the right woman or not, and they end up getting hit by purses and bags and things, and they're sneaking around, and they're sitting on the floor at one point and someone throws change at them, and then they start fighting over the change.
Yeah, because they're looking for the note in the bin.
Yeah.
And they're all dirty and stuff, so they look, pretty homeless, so someone's giving them change. And then they fight each other over it as well.
Yeah, that's what I mentioned, yeah. They fight over the change, and we're back into the hospital, and a surgeon comes running out of the theatre because Andy's got up out of bed and he thinks that he's seen Julie Delpy. And he's run out of the theatre and he says to Andy, "Did you see a girl? She has stolen my art."
Yeah.
Yeah. You like that? And then Andy's handed that note, which
also because we've just seen her walking away with a bloody bag, so he's literally taken the heart out of his operating theatre.
Yeah.
That's why it's funny.
Yeah. Yeah, Andy handed the note by his two friends, and he pulls this really dumb face. You like that as well. He likes really dumb stuff, yeah. Anyway, Andy gets out of hospital with his two friends, and then he winds up on a date with Seraphine, and he's advised by his two friends, to act macho, because that's what French chicks like. And they go to a cafe. What happens in this cafe?
What happens in the cafe?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know what you're referring to, but a lot happens in the cafe. He spills coffee all over the place. He explodes condoms. He then tries to pretend the condoms are chewing gum. He chews on a condom for ages.
He doesn't explode condoms.
They just
he drops
fly out of his
off of his person. Condoms fly over the table during this date, and then he claims that it's chewing gum. And then Seraphine says it is a French custom to do a chew in front of a woman.
Blow, the bigger the bubble.
So then he puts a condom in his mouth and tries to blow a bubble with it, and he does. And it comes out like a giant condom balloon which hits Seraphine while his two mates are looking on.
No, you're so silly. We literally just watched this film. He blew it up and it flew out of his mouth like one of those balloons losing air.
It hits him on the shoulder.
No, it landed in the dude's soup.
I'm going to prove it to you when we go back, and we're going to have it written.
It landed in the guy's soup. Yes, because then the waiter comes over with the soupy condom on a spoon and was like, "Is this yours, monsieur?"
Yeah, I remember that. But before it goes into the soup, it hits Julie Delpy.
Why would it do that before it goes in the soup?
We'll just watch it back. But either way, I said Julie Delpy has a lot to say about this movie because she is a twice Oscar-nominated actress, writer, director, and she apparently was not happy with the way that this film turned out and vowed to never do a Hollywood movie ever again until she ended up wanting about 18 years later some superhero movie.
It certainly hasn't got the refined taste.
She says that the only reason that she made this film was to pay her rent. So even though she's only doing this for the rent, she also revealed, and these are her own words, that she gave such a good performance in the film despite only taking it on purely for cash and disliking the experience so much.
Well...
Is this just classic French actress syndrome? I'm in this stupid movie, this stupid American movie.
What kind of accent is that?
Last week I gave us Russian.
Yeah, I forgot you're the
Now I'm doing
genius.
this French accent.
Well, I think it's funny, and maybe actually she was told by producers to be like this because there's a whole undertone in this film about the French being classier or whatever and hating Americans / loving Americans.
Yeah, you've got that
'cause
guy
they taste
Claude,
good.
Claude, who runs the Lunar Club, Club de la Lune,
Yeah,
where
one of
they
the
have
werewolves.
full moon parties.
And they kill a bunch of American tourists.
Yeah,
Essentially.
he's a lead vampire, and
Werewolf.
first time vampire. Yeah, he's a lead werewolf, and the first time we see Claude, he's like, "I love Americans,"
Yeah.
and of course he invites him to the party. And when Andy, Chris, and Brad go to this full Lunar Club party, they're kind of split up, and because Julie Delpy, Seraphine, is trying to get Andy out because they're all gonna, he's gonna be eaten. Brad kind of goes off by himself in the tunnel looking for Andy. And Chris is kind of like kidnapped. He's put in a cell, isn't he?
Well, he went to get Seraphine, found her locked in a cell, which we realise is because she's trying to keep herself locked in when she turns into a werewolf.
She knocks him out, yeah.
And then, she realises a danger, locks him in so that he is safe, apparently.
He does manage to escape the cell because he
Yeah.
strips down to his sick bod, bro. And he manages to make a contraption out of his own clothing. And he throws a shoe at a key on the wall and then drags the key towards him, and he's escaped.
Yeah.
But then unfortunately later on we see him, when Claude, the not vampire, has found out that Andy has the werewolf skills, he says, right, you're an accident. We weren't supposed to turn you into a I keep saying vampire, into a werewolf. Now, if you're going to be one of us, we're going to trust you, you have to do something for us. They take him to a room, and Chris is tied up on a crucifix, and they tell Andy to kill him, and obviously he doesn't, because he's a good guy. But then everyone busts out of Club de la Lune, and we see Chris running out the front door, still strapped to the crucifix. And the reason I brought it up is because he said it was a miserable day for him, because he was strapped to his thing all day, and he was like covered in bruises by the end of it.
I was thinking about that when he was walking out. I was like, I wonder what they've made that cross out of and what it weighs, etc. But, the third friend unfortunately dies, which I was actually sad about because I liked all three of the characters. The main guy, his character is a bit annoying because he's so slow. I mean, it has to be, again, to create the suspense and stuff in moments.
They were trying to imitate the way the two main characters were in American Werewolf in London, but they just artificially transported it over, kind of thing. It wasn't terrible or anything like that. It's just the film's a bit goofy, isn't it?
He was just a bit annoying at times, and he was like, "What? Why?
Yeah.
What?" Like, just sometimes you just shut up and go. Like
the guy Chris, who I mentioned, the crucifix guy, he's
Yeah.
played by a geezer called Phil Buckman, and he's played bass for Steel Panther. He's not on any records or anything like that.
That's so random.
And he's also been the bassist for a band called Fuel and a band called Filter. And you know the song Hey Man, Nice Shot?
Maybe.
By title, yeah. And then the Fuel song is called Shimmer. It's hard to sing.
That's so random though, because I was thinking at certain times there was something that reminded me of like Chili Peppers or something about it. Like, that's
Yeah, I
really
can kind of see that. Yeah.
Okay.
The other guy that played Brad, so the guy that you said you were sad that he died. But when he does come back, I love the gashes on his face, stuff like that. The makeup they give him, especially that it's all shot in the daytime.
So these werewolves in this one, if you haven't seen it already, are haunted by the ghost of the victims that they kill, and so we've got his ghost hanging about trying to convince the main guy to kill the original werewolf, because then the spirits are freed.
Yeah.
And also, our main guy has his own attachment of a girl that he accidentally kills because he got carried away with his werewolfness.
Yeah, he takes a girl that he's been on a date with, like an accidental date, because he starts sniffing her in the restaurant.
She's American.
Doesn't he? She's
and
American.
She tastes good, right?
And, he can smell out that she's American, so he leaves his table, gets on all fours, starts crawling across the floor,
Sniffing her out,
and almost upskirts her. He ends up.
Oh, he does.
Yeah.
He's got his face like right in her butt cheeks.
But she still agrees to go on a date with him because he's American, she's American, and they take the date out of the at the restaurant. But before they come out of the restaurant, I've just been reminded, as a waiter's walking by, Andy asks him, he's like, I want a bottle of the Poo Fizzy Baboo or something like that. He's trying to speak French, and he says something about, Poo Fizzy, champagne. He takes her to a graveyard, and there's a policeman on their tail as well. And they're starting to get down to it and stuff like this in the graveyard, but then he turns obviously into the werewolf, runs away, and his date ends up dying. Does he kill her? Yeah, he kills her, doesn't he? And then the policeman's hiding in a sepulchre, but he obviously dies as well. And then later on, when we see the girl from the date that's died, she's trying to call everyone to his whereabouts because she wants him dead because he's killed
Yeah.
her. And there are bits where she's trying to whistle attention to get the guy's attention. As she puts her fingers in her mouth to do a loud whistle, like her wound spurts out blood, and then her eye pops out. Really cool touches. The comedy part of it.
Yeah, it was definitely really funny.
We had something classically French as well. When they enter the Club de la Lune, before they've got like all the way down the stairs, it's just a bloke inside pissing. Just pissing indoors.
To be fair, my experience of Paris was a lot of people pissing everywhere. So.
Yeah, they do like to whiz in public, don't they?
Yeah.
I thought the POV of the wolves, the werewolves hunting their prey was good in this. So there were quite good practical effects of small parts of them transforming into the werewolf. And then as this is 1997, they obviously used the CGI as well, and obviously it's not great, but it's no worse than Cursed or Battledogs, which were from 2013 and 2005. So they didn't do it. So I kind of like let it go because of that. I've almost just tripped. That's the third time now. I've almost tripped on the high heel. I'm gonna break my ankle, and I'm gonna have to take the chair for future episodes.
Misery.
Yeah, you've always joked about trying to misery me. You know, Kathy Bates, tie me down to a bed and, you know, destroy my ankles. I do worry about you.
Anyway.
When the character of Brad appears again as undead, and he's warning Andy and telling him how he can end it and stuff like this, he tells him that he's got to kill Seraphine, if I'm correct, right? But
he doesn't specifically say Seraphine. He says you have to kill the werewolf who turned you and eat their heart, then you'll be cured.
So, as previously mentioned, Andy's been taken away by Claude at one point, and he's asked to kill Chris, his best friend. And when he doesn't, you know, he's obviously chased again by Claude and his gang. But do you notice that Claude's gang are wearing string vests?
And net vests.
Yeah, net vests.
It's very kinky.
Yeah. Is this what, you know, hard men in French gangs wear?
This is what werewolves wear when they're not werewolves, apparently.
Yeah. So the guy that plays Brad, I think, as I said, he's the one that you said you really enjoyed his performance. Is he the most of the one that died early and comes back?
Well, not the most. I enjoyed all their performances.
Yeah. So he's played by a guy called Vince Vailoff. And it seems that, well, the first time we watched this, I looked him up then as well.
Because he looks familiar.
And he's quit acting in around 2010, it seems. And what I read at the time, 6-7 years ago, he'd gone to Hawaii to serve drinks. I think he's basically saying he's bought a bar. Nice. And he just hasn't done acting since then. And yeah, Vince Vailoff is in an episode of Friends as Ross's student, Ned. Why? That guy, the one who says that he's in love with Ross Geller.
Oh, of course, yeah, I totally remember him now.
So he's in that episode of Friends, which is really memorable for. And as we just said, he's kind of retired from acting in 2010. He's still young, obviously. And
it's not for everyone.
He was in this movie called Rat Race, and literally everyone is in it. So you've got like Breckenmeyer, Amy Smart, Whoopi Goldberg, Cuba Gooding Jr. is in it, just a whole bunch of Seth Green, just loads of people. John Lovitz, and Vince Vailoff is in it. But he's in it way more than a lot of those people, if not all of them. And he fired his agent when it came out because even though he was in most of the movie, his name wasn't on the front of the poster, his image wasn't on the front of the poster. And it's not like there's just two actors on the front. It had about 8 characters on the front of this poster. And I feel like he maybe just a guy who didn't get a fair shot at things almost. If something like that happens to you, and you know, because why would you quit? Because he's still working. And you know, like I say, it's maybe not for everyone, but
yeah, I can imagine you getting sick of it, definitely, and wanting to just leave the whole business because the whole business is permeated with a certain attitude. And
when we get to make Heathen, I always keep actors in my mind, like actors who are a bit more, if you want to call them niche or just not as well known and stuff, just people who've made an impression when I've watched things. And, you know, he might be happy serving drinks in Hawaii. Why wouldn't you be? It's Hawaii. And if that's your passion, but if you ever did want to get back to acting and we get to make our movie, he's someone that I'd like try to search out to see because he's just like natural and easily enjoyable in his roles, I think.
I've only ever seen him do comedy though, so yeah.
Well, you only need to be good at one thing.
Yeah, but Heathen's in no way a comedy, so.
No, he wouldn't be in Heathen. I said if we get to meet Heathen after that.
I see
after that, going forward, yeah. Sorry, Vince, there's no room for you in Heathen. We can't get you in on the first one, but one of the very final scenes, we've got Seraphine. She's in the back of an ambulance, and she wakes up and she's all groggy, and there's an ambulance attendee sat next to her,
Oh.
and she's like, Bruno, je t'aime, I love you.
You say you're wrong again. She doesn't say Bruno. She's talking about Andy, the
Oh,
main guy.
yeah,
She's
Andy,
like,
je t'aime.
Andy, I love you.
Yeah.
And it's the ambulance paramedic attendee guy who's like, oh, well,
Yeah.
actually, my name is Bruno, but
But
thank
I
you.
am easy. Yeah. My name is Bruno, actually, but I am easy.
That's just one of those occasions where a teeny weeny little cameo role can make such an impression.
Yeah, that's all he had to say throughout the whole
But he
entire
did it
movie.
brilliantly, and, and even the face he pulls afterwards
So
is really funny.
And then randomly at the end of the movie, they get married, Julie Delpy and Andy, and they bungee jump off the Statue of Liberty.
Yeah.
Which again was pretty random.
Yeah, I don't see how she could have made that scene and not realised what kind of film this was going to be.
Maybe I think the guy that wrote the original, like, he's a bit of a legend, John Landis. I'm pretty sure he also directed. When I say original, again, this is not really a sequel to American Werewolf, but anyway, he had written scripts for the sequel, and they probably went into kind of pre-production a couple of times very early, and then just got scrapped. Even this final version was in production for like 6 years, or pre-production for 6 years, just going through the motions. So they did get the original guy back to write a sequel, but they just ended up with this. So maybe they just changed it on the spot, because as we've discussed with other movies, things can just change like that and you're in a completely different movie to what you expected to be in. But yeah, she really looks down her nose on this movie, Julie Delpy. I think it's pretty good.
Yeah, I definitely, it's on the rewatch list in future.
Yeah, I would 100% watch this movie more than one time.
It's one I'd happily own as a physical copy.
So now you've watched it backwards, but you'll have to see American Werewolf in London as well, which is like an uber classic of the horror genre, and just probably cinema in general.
Yeah.
I think next week we might start on some actual Halloween series movies. Maybe.